Okay, so I will just get started here. So, my presentation is called AI in Education, What School Leaders Should Know. So, I am not a school leader myself, as you can probably tell, but I did present to a couple different conferences here where I live. I live in Canada, and the AI landscape here is a little bit less developed than in the United States. So, I had to present to a bunch of school leaders about AI, so I'm kind of using similar slides from that in today's presentation. So this is pretty much a very high-level view of AI in education, and I know if you're here, you probably know quite a bit about AI already, so it might be um, a little bit of stuff you already might know. But I'm just here to share a little bit about that, and I definitely won't take the whole hour. There'll be time at the end for you to play around. I've got a big database of tools you can try out. So we have that as well. All right, so I'm just going to admit all these people. Okay, so thank you for sticking around for this late conference. Um, so this is about me. So yeah, I'm Sophie. I work at a school called Bison Run here in my hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. As you can tell by the photo, it's very new. It just opened last January, so it's been really cool to be a part of a school that's brand new and has really cool cutting edge technology that kind of sparked my whole AI expertise and interest. Because we've got a big STEM lab and all sorts of cool machines. So yeah, so that's where I work. And yeah, I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba. A lot of you probably don't know where that is. It's in Canada, right here. This is North Dakota, um, right below it. And then we've got Toronto near Ottawa and then Vancouver on the West Coast. So those are probably cities that you've heard about. But just for some more perspective here, this is what it looks like half of the year, and temperatures are around -4 to -40 Fahrenheit. So I thought I'd share that. I'm very jealous of you who live where it's warm. So yeah, it's freezing out today. So I'm happy to be inside. But yeah, so I kind of got into this whole conference and met Evergreen through my TikTok. Kind of a funny story. So I started it this summer, like mid to late July, and so I started posting on there. I posted a couple videos giving tutorials about EduAid. I don't know if you've used that tool, and also Magic School. They were kind of the first ones out there, kind of the easiest user-friendly ones. So I posted a couple videos on them. I wasn't really on TikTok before, kind of forgot about it. Pretty low tech. I was just sitting on my couch talking to the camera and forgot about it. Came back in a couple days and I had 3,000 followers. I'm like, what is going on? And one of my videos had tens of thousands of views. So I said, what the heck? People, I guess teachers found this AI stuff super interesting and helpful. I think the first one I made was about a subplan or something, which was great. But yeah, so I kind of kept going with that and have been continuing to post about AI and have met a really cool community. A lot of the presenters today I know just through my social media. And yeah, I never thought I would be the person to post and talk to the camera because I don't know, I always admire influencers and content creators, but I never thought I would be one of them. But I guess it kind of happened by happenstance. So I'm pretty grateful, and it's been a really fun journey. So if you have expertise about anything, I recommend just putting yourself out there, because even if you don't have a ton of followers, you'll build a really cool community with like-minded people. But yeah, so that's my TikTok. So I've been rolling with that since July, and then I also have a newsletter from my TikTok, which you can subscribe to. I'll put the link. I'll put all the links later in the bio. Sorry, in the chat. Sorry. And but yeah, it's basically a weekly newsletter where I provide pretty much the same stuff every week in a similar format. So I do AI news of the week in education, 3 of my favorite tools and functions, prompt of the week, and then what was the other one? I can't remember the other one. Oh, and then a tutorial usually. So it's good because it kind of shows a breadth of different tools out there and updates in those tools, instead of I get all the emails from individual tools, and I like having a compiled space for all of those. So that's kind of what I aim for my newsletter to do. So our agenda for today is kind of just background information on AI. Then we're going to go into a little bit of the boring stuff on ethics, safety, and policy, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about already. I'll share some resources and questions, and then we can do some tool exploration. So, where are we at the scale? You can throw it in the chat or throw your camera on from a scale of 1 to 5. We've never used AI or ChatGPT or played a bit around with it, or I was super expert. Where are we at in this conversation here? Awesome. Oh, Stephen, are you from Canada?
Stephen Arnold or Stephen
Sorry,
Cup.
Stephen Arnold. Stephen Arnold.
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Hi, Sophie. I'm from Winnipeg.
No way.
Teach at Amber Trails.
You teach in Pembina Trails?
No, at Amber Trails. It's in
Oh,
Seven
Amber
Oaks, actually.
Trails. Yes, it's a beautiful school.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice place to be. Happy
Yeah.
to know that you're doing some of this work in Winnipeg as well.
Yeah. How'd you hear about the conference?
Through Sarah Clark, who's here maybe too.
Oh,
She's a learning support teacher at our school.
neat. Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
welcome. That's so awesome to see you here. Okay, excellent. So we've got a wide scale here, all the way from 2 to 5. So I presented a couple weeks ago to a bunch of principals, and they were a little bit on the 1 to 2 scale. So I kind of adapted it for this, but very good to know. Okay, so here's just a quick background or catch up. We all know we've been using AI for years, whether we like it or not. So we've got things like Alexa, social media algorithms, etc., Google fill in search results. But the tipping point one was when ChatGPT kind of launched. I would say last year, but 2 years ago, I guess, in November, December-ish 2022. I remember I heard about it about January 2023, because a student turned in an essay that was clearly not written by him. So we had a little chat about that, and then I kind of fell into this AI rabbit hole. But I thought this infographic was really, really cool. And this I kind of highlights the whole reason why I think educators and school leaders and everyone in this educational space needs to be aware of AI, because we all deal with things like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok in our daily lives if you are a teacher, and all the issues that come around with those things. So I found it alarming that ChatGPT took the least time to reach 100 million users. So above Netflix, above Spotify. These are all, and it might have something to do with at the point in time that it was released, being we're more technology advanced in 2022 rather than 2008. But still, compared to something like TikTok or Instagram, I thought this was a really interesting statistic. It only took 2 months for GPT to reach 100 million users, whereas something like Instagram took 2.5 years. So I thought, what better reason for us to be aware and literate on this topic? But yeah. So this is another super cool study I found. So 4 months later, this is from Common Sense Media. I think a lot of us have probably used this resource, but it found that 58% of students aged 12 to 18 have used ChatGPT in the United States. 56% said they knew a friend or classmate who had used GPT without teacher permission, and 38% of students admitted that they themselves had used it without teacher permission. More than 4 out of 5 parents and students agree that ChatGPT has the potential to both greatly benefit the world or cause great harm, similar to kind of the perspective that a lot of people had with social media. Oops. So for those of us who are a little bit lower on the AI comfortability scale, an LLM is what ChatGPT is. It's what a lot of these AI tools you've heard about are run off of. It's a large language model, which means the following. It's like a super smart robot. This is how I like to explain it, that has read almost everything in your library, from books to articles, social media posts. The robot uses all that knowledge to understand and generate language, similar to how a human would. It can write essays, answer questions, or even come up with stories just by figuring out how words and sentences should logically flow from one another based on what it has learned or been trained on. So another analogy I like to think about it is a school librarian. You can ask it something, and it won't need to look at any of the books because it's read all of them 10 times and it knows everything. So now it cannot even crawl the web, which is really cool. So yeah, and beyond that, we've got image generators embedded into these engines like Dolly, or Midjourney. So very cool. Other ones you might have used are Bard, Copilot, Bing Chat, Google Gemini, pardon me. But I consistently use GPT-4 still. So while this is incredibly cool, you can still imagine a few issues. So it was trained on the internet, which we already know isn't always factual, which because there's biased information out there or fake news. And it doesn't volunteer conflicting facts or alternative perspectives, pardon me, unless you ask it to. So what I mean by that is I can ask it a question and it'll give me one perspective. But unless I ask, can you answer this from XYZ's perspective or a different perspective, then it will tell me that perspective. But it can give a little bit biased answers unless you're a really good prompt engineer. So that's another reason to be mindful. Our students need to be AI literate, just like technology literate, digitally literate, all ties into digital citizenship here. So I thought this was neat. Bill Gates predicts AI will change the world more and faster than his personal computing revolution. So that's something that was published about a year ago, just under. But I thought that said a lot coming from Bill Gates himself. So, and this, I don't know if anyone has seen this one out there, but this happened in New Jersey. But it was published by a news company here in Canada. But it says, amid rise in AI deepfakes, experts urge school curriculum updates for online behavior. So it says fake nude images generated by AI are some of the distressing new challenges facing students and educators. So I think the biggest concern for educators at first when this came out was kind of the whole using AI as cheating or having it do your assignments for you. But then I never expected this, but now it's taken such a step further where students or people are using this AI, this video generation, image generation to generate deep fakes as a form of cyberbullying, and they can be really explicit. So another reason why I think schools, principals, and teachers need to know about this stuff. But yeah, I found that pretty horrifying. I couldn't imagine if that happened to me or someone I knew, or how to even navigate that. So I think instilling an AI policy is super important in schools. I know my school doesn't have one, but I know a lot of other schools in the US and maybe even Canada have started developing those. But yeah, and then I'm sure all of our students, if we haven't, have heard of these ones. A deepfake image is just an AI generated image, but it looks like an actual person. So like actually like Taylor Swift or like that student who had that thing happen to her there. But yeah, you probably heard all about this Taylor Swift nude images, deepfake on X or wherever you get your social media. But this is what kids are seeing every day. So it's important that we are aware of it and know the dangers of it, as well as the benefits, of course. I know I'm kind of sounding like AI is bad right now. I don't believe that at all. I just think it's really important that we know the dangers of it and the benefits. So this is a cool site I like showing my students. It's called Which Face is Real. Let's play again here. So one is AI generated and one's not. I think this one's real. Let's see here. You're incorrect. Really? That one's the real one. Okay, play again. I think the boy is real. Oh, wow. Well, maybe he looks a little bit dysmorph there in the face, so we'll try again. Person who is real. I think this one, the boy on the right. What? Okay, I'm usually pretty good at detecting which one's fake and which one's real, but I'm struggling today. So it's pretty crazy what the image generators are capable of now. So that was pretty neat. But yeah, that one is just called, I think, whichfacesreal.com if you ever want to do a fun activity with your class or just show them how advanced this technology has gotten. So the main concerns in education, of course, are data privacy and security of student data, equity issues, bias, and also ethical use. So using it for good rather than for plagiaristic purposes or quote unquote cheating. So I really like this video by Dan Fitzpatrick. I'm sure you've heard of him before this conference or probably during this conference. He is the AI educator, as he's known as. He's published a book and he's done a ton of research on this stuff. I'm not going to play the video here, but if you're curious, you can always just search it on YouTube. Cheating is a skill. But one aha moment for me, or something that stuck out was, are we more concerned with the authenticity of a student's work, or are we more concerned with if they understand the topic and can use that knowledge to innovate? So I think that kind of means when we're using AI as a tool rather than something to help us cheat, we should be more concerned about what knowledge has a student gained. If they used AI, that's okay as long as they used it properly, rather than just focusing on, oh, you used AI, that's bad, that's bad. But when we can use it as a tool to really enhance their learning, I think it's great. I know I use it, and this just isn't for students, this is for teachers or all professionals. Some people think that if you use AI in your workflow every day, that's cheating or that's being lazy. I don't see it that way. I think I see it as a productivity tool for work. I see it as a research assistant. And I just see it as something that can really be used for good when you know how to use it properly. I'm just gonna play this video. And then Google states that before making AI in the Google Workspace, this is published a while ago, but available for those under 18, school administrators need to have full transparency and control with how students access the Gen AI within their accounts. And school staff and faculty are informed about generative AI tools so they can make decisions that align with their school policies. And this includes giving time to school staff to test generative AI tools in their school environment. So I really like that. As teachers, we don't have a lot of time to play around with these things and learn how they work. So it's great that everyone was able to come to this conference today and learn a little bit more. But I know I'm exhausted. I teach full time, a class of 30 kids. So if teachers are given the time to play around with these tools and learn more, I think that's really valuable and important. So yeah. And then I like this infographic here from teachai.org. So potential benefits in education are, yeah, creating assessments, feedback, content development, and differentiation. That's one of my main use cases I use AI for. Whether it just be copy and pasting into GPT or using a tool like, I don't know, like Brisk or Eduate or Magic School to text level for me. Because I have a very diverse class, as I'm sure a lot of us do, with different language levels and different reading levels, or new to the country and kids who don't speak any English. So I find it really, really helpful. I remember 2 years ago, I would take an article and copy paragraph by paragraph and put it into Google Translate to give it to my English language learners. And now I can just differentiate it right there and change languages or change it to an easier reading level. So I think that's a really, really beneficial thing, an aspect that AI gives us. But yeah, other things are tutoring, personalized learning, aiding creativity and collaboration. Yeah, this one's kind of an oxymoron, people think, but AI, I find, actually helps me be more creative because I can ask it a question and it can offer a different perspective than what I was originally thinking of, and that can spark different thought processes. For example, I can ask it, give me a lesson on electricity for 6th grade students. I need them to teach about static electricity. And I was just thinking, oh, maybe we'll do the classic balloon on the wall, but it might offer different, more engaging things. So I think it sparks creativity for me for sure. And then operational and administrative efficiency, of course. On that end, I use it a lot for emails. I don't get GPT to write the emails for me, and I don't think anyone should. But that was actually in schools and in the workplace. I think there was a survey. I heard another presentation and they were saying one of the main use cases of AI is for emails. And that's one thing I use it for predominantly. Like I copy and paste an email. So I get an email from a parent. I'm feeling emotional. But I know I need to sit on it at least a night before, or it's a tough email I need to send a parent, maybe behavioral related. And I can just omit the names or change the names because I know GPT is good with privacy, but before I copy and paste, I always make sure I change the name or just enter a little name in parentheses there. But I usually say, can you make this sound a little bit more professional and encouraging? Or can you change the tone to be more friendly and informative or something like that? And kind of just massage it out that way. And that I find really, really helps when replying to emails or sending those difficult emails in a more timely manner. So yeah, and then the potential risks, of course, are data collection and privacy issues, diminished agency when using it inappropriately, plagiarism, over-reliance, and loss of critical thinking. So it can either aid critical thinking or it can cause loss of it when used incorrectly. And then perpetuating societal bias. And I have something a little later in the presentation that kind of goes into that a little bit more. And I really like this infographic. I won't go through the whole thing, but it kind of guides that ethical AI movement for students. And if you are an administrator, this is always a good document to refer to if you are developing a policy. So it kind of says, Kate, this is yes, and this is no. So obviously not complete a full assignment for me or help with my research and find facts, quotes, or resources, because that's diminishing the research skills of the student. I really like the explain an idea in simpler terms, help me improve on what I've already done, or help me get started on an assignment. I also like help me create an outline for an assignment or something like that for just getting started. I know idea generation is something that's difficult for writing, for my class at least, but I really like using it for that. I've also started experimenting with AI image generation on Canva with my students. So kind of teaching them how to be little graphic designers, which has been really, really fun and user-friendly for them too. And Canva EDU is free for educators. So just if you're curious in that, you can get a free pro account. But yeah. So here's the best use cases as teachers. So we can, streamline those admin tasks, differentiate, adapt content for English as an initial language, which I spoke to. I really like the ability to break down complex tasks. So if you're in the student support realm or counseling, there's tools. You can use GPT or even Goblin tools. I don't know if you've heard of, it's another site, but it can take a task and break it down into tiny little actionable steps, which honestly I need sometimes when I have something to do. But I really find that one really helpful, especially for the kids who have trouble completing tasks or focusing. It can kind of aid that positive reinforcement and have that whole checklist satisfaction thing going on with that. So I really like that. Instead of you having to break it down yourself and taking that 20 minutes to do that, you could use AI to help you with that. Provide inspiration, provide feedback, and then foster teacher-student communication. Kids can use it to spark engagement and use curiosity, evaluate bias, personalize and self-paced tutors. I haven't done that one in my class quite yet, but I know lots of people have toyed around with that with School AI or Conmigo. Unfortunately, my class only has 6 laptops for 30 kids, so I'm very limited on what I can do. But I really like watching what other teachers have done in their classes. Note-taking, time management, writing outlines, skeletons, assistive tech, and direct translation, which is really helpful for me, I find. And then here's an interesting use case that can be shown to students or done with students or even staff. You can show them about AI bias. So I recorded a screen recording prior to this, so I'll kind of show that. But basically what it is me designing 2 chatbots, one of Napoleon as a hero, one of Napoleon as a tyrant, but they're both the same Napoleon chatbot, but each one is programmed differently. And this is what we can experience from different AI tools out there when we don't evaluate them for bias. So I'll just kind of show that here. Let's see. In this video, I am going. Can you hear it? Okay, thank you. To show you an example of an assignment that you can use to show your students or your students can do to show how AI models can be biased. And it's really important to fact check the information that any AI model gives us. So I'm using a platform called Humi.ai. I am just going to log in here. And it is a platform that is excellent. It has over 1,000 historical figures that are fact checked that you can chat with your class. It also has assignments, collections, and tools. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to create my own chatbot here. So I'm going to create a Humi. I'm going to name it Napoleon. What I'm doing here is I'm creating 2 different chatbots of Napoleon, one with sources that say he's a hero, and then one with sources that say he's a tyrant. So when I build these chatbots, I provide the websites and documents I want the chatbots to crawl when they're answering questions. And so for this one, I'm going to name it Napoleon Hero. So I've gone ahead and named it Napoleon the Hero, given it a short bio. And then in the description, I used ChatGPT to kind of generate a description of him that really showcases how he is a hero. So it says, this chatbot embodying Napoleon as a hero is programmed to reflect the brilliant strategic genius and visionary leadership of Napoleon Bonaparte. So when you ask it a question, it'll kind of give you answers that are catered to that version of Napoleon. I also created an image from Dolly of Napoleon and a welcome message. And then what I did is I searched the web
for 2 reputable sources, but that portrayed him as a bit more of a hero than as a tyrant. So I copied their URLs and added them here, just so it can actually access those URLs and take information for those from those URLs that portray him as more of a hero. I'm then going to create it, and then I'm going to create the next one, which is the tyrant. And then I've gone ahead over here and done the exact same thing, but portraying him as a tyrant. So I've got my description, and then I also created a more tyrannous vision of his profile picture and chosen 2 data sources that portray him as a tyrant. So now to test this, I'm going to ask it the same question and see how it responds. So to share these, all I have to press is this little arrow button, copy the link, and I'll open it in a new tab. Here we go. And same with the next one. Excellent. So I'm going to ask it a really open-ended question here. Can you describe Napoleon's contributions to the French Revolution? And let's see what each version of Napoleon will give us. And we can see here the responses are super different. So this one says, my contributions were vast and impactful, reformed legal system with Napoleonic code, promoted to equality, creating educational reforms, revolutionary ideas, better the people. Leadership was marked by valor on the battlefield and diplomatic acumen, and I am proud of the positive impacts of my role despite the nuanced shades of history. Whereas asking the exact same question to the tyrant version, I can see the so-called contributions of Napoleon to the French Revolution have been glorified beyond measure. While some may argue that I empowered the French people and instituted positive reforms, let us not forget the darker side of my rule. I reintroduced slavery, allowed the wealthy to dodge my military conscription, and did little to the advance gender equality. So this just goes to show you that we need to teach students to really evaluate their sources, and that AI can be extremely biased. And this was kind of a really cool exercise that I did with my students, where they could create a chatbot of the same person, but as that person creating the chatbot, their own biases were being brought into it by the sources they provide it with, by the description they give it. So it just really shows students that not all AI is true, and we really need to be careful of our information.
So yeah, that was a cool exercise I did. Obviously, we're not creating our own chatbots every day, but different models have their own different biases. And I thought it was neat when I did it with my students, we did it with a different figure, Louis Riel. He's a Canadian figure that has been debated as a hero or a tyrant or a traitor, pardon me. But anyways, we did it with that, and they were blown away when I gave certain kids different links and they were getting different answers to the same question, and they said, how is that possible? And then I showed them, well, I created 2 different ones. So they both had the same profile picture, and I kind of tricked them into that, but they're like, whoa, that's so cool. So yeah, that's a really cool site if you want to check it out, to build your own chatbots. And they've also got tons of different figures on there that you can chat with. So yeah, now for the fun stuff. So my top tools for beginners, I will just go through really quickly here. So ChatGPT or an LLM. So guidelines I follow are don't use specific pseudodata or names, and don't use it for any formal type of assessment. And that goes for all of AI. That should not be, I know there's assessment generators tools out there, which are great. I use them. Well, I don't use them, but I have seen people use them to get a top-down view of what their kids understand or what they don't understand, but that shouldn't be your endpoint. You should always look at that and then kind of add your own professionalism into your assessment there. Use cases. So what I use it for is changing email writing or tonality, constructing a skeleton for a report you have to write, agenda, policy, class newsletters or updates, answer quick questions, or ask it to explain a concept for you at a certain age level, which I use a lot. Sometimes I get questions and I'm like, oh, I don't know how to answer that. So I'll go to GPT and say, explain this concept to a 6th grader. And then it's also an Excel genius, which I find really helpful, or Google Sheets if that's what you use. It can give instructions on how to set up a formula or fix existing ones. If you copy and paste your formulas or bugs in your Excel spreadsheet, it will teach you how to fix them, which I find really helpful. Here's another tool I really like, eduaid.ai. This is another popular one. It's very similar to Magic School, which I'll go to the next one, but it's kind of an all-in-one thing. It's free. I think that there is a pro version, but I think the free version is pretty comprehensive. Easy sign up with Google or email, and it saves your resources. I really like this one because it was generated by 2 middle school, high school teachers out of Maryland, and they are still teaching to this day. So they are really big proponents of AI for good, and they're not about the capitalism, and they're not Silicon Valley guys just trying to create a product. They actually really care about teachers and students, and they're in the flesh, in the trenches, in the school every day. So I really like this one. It's one of the oldest ones. It's one of the first ones that came out. But yeah, they have started charging for it because I think it does cost money to use GPT tokens, kind of at a higher scale. But they have kept a free version, which is awesome. Magic School is very, very similar. I think the user interface is a little bit more intuitive with all the images and stuff. But they've got a lot of the same tools here. One thing that Magic School has that Eduade doesn't, that I've noticed, that I actually used today for my sub plan for being here, was the YouTube video question generators. So I had a video I wanted to show my students. I didn't want them to be distracted, at least have a worksheet there. But so I just created the YouTube video questions, and there was 30 minutes for my sub to do with them, which was really, really helpful, kind of in a pinch today. So hopefully that went well. And they're actually coming out with something called Magic Student. They haven't released it yet, but it's kind of a AI literacy program for students. So I imagine it to be sort of an online course teaching them about AI and how to use it, which could be really, really exciting and impressive. I'm excited to see that. And this one is also created by a former principal, which is super cool as well. He's full-time doing Magic School now, but he was an educator and a principal prior to that. So I like that. Almanac.ai. So I don't know if anyone's used this one. I find this one a little bit more advanced, but it's great. There's a bit more of a learning curve. Like, you need to create courses before you create any resources, which can be tedious. But this one has a really good slide generator. And it has really good gamification generators. So I said for staff icebreakers, if you're an admin for staff meetings, maybe, or beginning of the year, or any PD you have to do. But it can create Jeopardy games, bingo games, Battleship, like tons of cool different games on any subject or standard you have, which I find really awesome. And then it has report card generators, which is comment generators, pardon me, which again are a really good starting point. I kind of, when I'm writing my report cards, I use AI as a starting point, and then I kind of massage it from there. I never directly copy and paste these comments, but sometimes if I'm lacking creativity or I don't know what verbiage to use, I can kind of go to these tools and ask it their input. So what I like about this one is you can create a course, and then you can say, write report card for Jimmy. What are his strengths, challenges? You just plug in a couple of bullet points, and then what curriculum are you basing it off of? So it has, I think, majority of Canadian province standards, and then it has most state standards as well. So you don't have to go in and copy and paste Commons Core Standard number 555 or whatever you are using. It actually already has those programmed in, which I think is a really cool feature that I haven't seen in any other tools out there. But yeah, this one also has a free and a pro version, but I think you get 15 free generations a month on the free version. So that honestly probably is good enough for most people. This one I think is a good intro point for if you want to try out something with your students, called Byte. No login required. They just go straight there, and then they can start chatting with it. So no student data tracking and personalized chat or help with the concept. So if you kind of want to introduce something like an LLM, but don't really want to, I know ChatGPT isn't usable for kids under 13, so this is something that is, and if they're curious about it, they can explore that personal tutor with Byte here. So, and it's by Codebreaker EDU, which is another really great site. And this is another one, a great one for students, Humi.ai, which I showed you in that last tutorial. But they've got, so yeah, so you can chat with historical figures, no login required. It just, if you're using it for assessment, it asks for your student's name, but they can always put student number 505 or something if you're super tight on privacy. It's got over 1,000 historical figures available, from US history to ancient civilizations to like Paleolithic era. It's got everything, including Canadian figures, which is super cool. It's got lesson plans, assignments, automated grading for, you can create interview, debate, or short answer assignments for your students to conference with those figures, which is really cool. I am trained as a math and science teacher, so when I got a classroom teacher job, I found it really, really hard to make my social studies lessons engaging. So I tried this with my students with the Louis Riel thing, and they loved it, and they were like, when do we do that again? And I'm like, well, we can do more computer stuff if you guys want. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed using that one and kind of making history. I remember as a student, I found history super boring. Now I think it's super interesting, but as a kid, I didn't. So this kind of brings it to life. I like this one as well. And I actually got to work with the founders. They're from Sweden, and they just needed some product feedback from a real teacher, and I got to help them develop some lessons. So that was really fun too. And there's a free and a paid version, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's me, that's my email. And I kind of blocked off this last 20 minutes or so to play around. So I've got a big database here. And then if you are able to use your PD funding or any funding you have, or even if you want to buy it personally, you can use my code Sophie for 20% off an EduAid Pro subscription. I use the free version, but the founders gave me a code if that's something you would like to purchase. I know I have a budget for subscriptions, so I could use it for that, but I'll just show you this resource doc here. So I created this over the summer, but when I had time, but I've been adding to it consistently. And it's a tool database. So it's got all the major tools here. They're not all educational, but most of them are. Like some of them are like just strictly slide generators for all types of businesses. But it's got, the tools here with a direct link. It's got a description of what they are, subjects that they're suitable for, age range. So PS is post-secondary, but yeah. So whatever you teach, and then cost or free or whatever, the type, website, or an app, and then ease of use. So yeah, so there's that. And then I'm continuously adding to this. At the bottom, there's other tabs. You can see policies. These are other policies that schools or organizations primarily in the United States have made. If you ever need inspiration, if you're an administrator and you need to create your own policy, you can kind of model off of these ones. There's also how-to videos. But yeah, I thought this was really helpful for if you are in charge of creating that AI policy for your school, or you're part of a team that is, you could reference these. And then this one I am adding to, as you can see, there's a lot more tools for teachers than there are for students. So I'm hoping there will be continually more. But these are more AI literacy lessons. So these are kind of teaching students about AI and how to use it properly. So there's a bunch of lesson series here on common sense media, AI literacy, like lessons with teacher scripts, everything, resources. So those are really cool to check out, but they're geared for a little bit older kids. AI guidance for school toolkit, intro to AI for teachers and students. This is a good YouTube series. And then AI for education, AI literacy curriculum. So that's I don't know if anyone's heard of this website, AI for education here, but it's pretty awesome. You've got tons of free resources. But I really like these ones because they're really hands-on for the students. Interview a chatbot, the mind of a machine, hallucination detective. Hallucinations are misinformation that AI can generate. And then co-creating an AI policy, and students can have student voice on that. So I thought this one was super cool. So I will share in the chat all these links. So if you want to take a break now, or maybe play around with them, or just save them to your own database. But yeah, they're all yours if you would like to play around. So I will just copy the link to the spreadsheet and put it in the chat here. Oh, sorry. No, I did not provide a link to my slides. I can definitely do that though. Okay, there's the database. Okay, and then I will provide a link to my slides. Link. Slides. And then I have got, yeah, and then if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, feel free. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Awesome. All right. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, I'm sure at the end of the programs, you've heard about the survey, so feel free to fill that out. But But yeah, so if you have anything that I missed on my database, feel free to send me an email. I'm constantly adding to it, or if you have any suggestions, yeah, you're very welcome. I'm happy you guys found this helpful. Reach out to me with any questions at all. I love talking about AI, or yeah, or follow me on TikTok, whatever it may be. But yeah, I hope you've learned something from this today and used at least something that you can use in your classroom or your office or whatever you do tomorrow. That's what I like about good PDs. And sometimes I'm in PDs and like, oh, okay, this is great, but this person hasn't been in a classroom in 20 years or something like that. So I think that's why I really like SequoiaCon, because everyone's kind of in it. So but yeah, feel free to reach out, and thank you so much for coming.